all packed up and ready to go to Wellington. I have a feeling that you're going to see a lot of this backdrop over the next 3 weeks because I am now in bed, and that is probably where a lot of the catch-up videos will be filmed. We are now in Wellington. We have basically just spent the afternoon settling in and making ourselves feel at home in our new apartment, which really does feel already like home. Me and Sam a couple of times have said to each other that it is definitely the most homely place we've been to so far in New Zealand, and we've been here less than 24 hours, so it's really nice. It's not daunting to think we're here for the next 3 weeks. It's actually really nice to know that we can settle and yeah, just get a little bit of normality and routine back in our lives. We set off this morning at about 8 o'clock. It was quite an early start and all was going well. It was a 4 and a bit hour drive, so I said to Sam that I'd do the first chunk of the drive, and it is basically the same road the whole way just for 4 hours, so it's a nice easy drive, and as of most roads in New Zealand, they are just long straight roads with barely any cars on them. You can see that I'm already starting the excuses here because unfortunately I may have been pulled over for speeding and may have got a little fine. There's no excuse for speeding. It's not a good look, and I did feel very embarrassed, but I would just like to say that I converted the speed I was doing into miles per hour, and I was only doing about 75 miles an hour. So it's not like I got pulled over for doing like 120 miles an hour. I was driving the speed that I'm used to driving back in the UK, but that is not the speed limit in New Zealand. So I deservedly got pulled over, which wasn't a very fun experience, and it's a $120 fine that we could have done without, but lesson learned, big slap on the wrist for me, although no points on my licence and no speeding course needing to be done. So after that slight hiccup, we continued our drive into Wellington, where we met our host for this Airbnb, and she let us in and showed us around, showed us how things work, gave us our keys, etc. And we pretty much just had enough time to dump the bags, have a quick look around the apartment, and then it was straight back into the car to drop it off to the rental company, which actually felt weirdly very sad dropping our car back because it has seen us through the whole of the North Island. It has been like our third home because we've just kept our suitcases in it. It's kept all of our bags and all of our odds and sods, and chances are if we couldn't find something it was definitely in the car. So it feels like a chunk of us is now missing, which I know sounds very dramatic, and I'm sure when Sam watches this he'll sort of roll his eyes and scoff at me a little bit, but I do feel very sad that we've lost our car. We will get a new one in the South Island, but I feel like I'm going to constantly compare it to the first one because we were just so lucky with our first car. It was a really, really good car. So we are now going to have to do the next 3 weeks on foot or on public transport, which is going to be a very humbling experience, I think. After dropping the car, we walked back to our Airbnb, and just that short 15-20 minute walk reminded me just how hilly Wellington actually is. So I think after 3 weeks of being here, I'm going to have quads for days. These hills are no joke in Wellington. We had a look, and turns out our closest Woolworths I think is only like a 10-15 minute walk away, so that's not bad at all, and it's going to be really handy to have one that close to us, obviously, especially if we don't have a car. However, we were a little bit stuck with the first shop that we were going to do. We're now making the most of being able to actually have a long time somewhere where we're not having to like meal plan for 3 days and not really be able to take any excess food because of hot cars and not having access to fridges, etc. So we can now actually properly shop, which is lovely, but also that means they're big shops. Because of the sheer amount of food that we actually needed to buy, it worked out not only easier but actually cheaper for us to do it as an online delivery, because they offered us a discount as like first online order placed with Woolworths. So we managed to do that, which is so helpful. And I did not expect there to be a slot for tomorrow, but there was a slot for tomorrow between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. So that is fantastic to know that we've got a whole week's worth of food literally arriving to our doorstep tomorrow morning. We're totally sorted for food from tomorrow onwards, but obviously we didn't have any dinner for tonight. And weirdly enough, the apartment complex that we're in the like foyer bit is a Chinese restaurant. We ordered ourselves, it wasn't really even that big of a Chinese in terms of the order. We ordered 3 things, but it ended up being a huge Chinese, and we sat and watched that in front of Netflix. That then brings us to now, which, like I said, I'm sat in bed. It's a very, very comfortable bed. We're extremely happy and quite surprised with how comfortable this bed is, especially when you consider that it is actually just a pull down bed. It just folds into the wall. So I really was a little bit hesitant with how comfy we would be for the next 3 weeks, but I really think we're going to be okay, so that's lovely. Sam and I both already feel so settled in this apartment, and I think that's mainly because this has been the first place that we have just fully unpacked in. So we're not living out of suitcases, we're living out of drawers and wardrobes for the first time in a while. We've got a few little Christmas lights up, we've just got our bits on surfaces already, and it just feels like we're grounded here and that we are living here. We're not just passing through here, we're actually here for a little bit of time. So going to make the most of that feeling, because as much as I love traveling, and of course traveling New Zealand, my favorite country in the whole world, it is tiring and it does take a lot of mental and physical energy just to keep moving from place to place. So the thought of being here now for 3 whole weeks is insane. That's such a long time to be in one place for. So I'm really looking forward to just calling this home and coming home to it each day. Yeah, it's going to be a good 3 weeks in Wellington, I think.